Hi, I'm Jacob Hornberger, Libertarian candidate for president. This video message is meant exclusively for the members of the Libertarian Party. As y'all know, after each standard Libertarian Party presidential campaign, just the Wednesday morning after the election, there is a standard lament. It goes like this: the debates. If only I had gotten in the debates. The debates were everything. If I'd gotten into the debates, I could have gotten my message out. If I'd gotten my message out, I would have gotten 10% of the vote instead of 1% of the vote or 0.5% of the votes. The debates, Jacob, the debates. The Republicans and Democrats just won't let us into their debates. If we got into the debates, we would have done much better than the 1% or the 0.5% or the 3% or standard range of a standard Libertarian Party presidential campaign, 1 to 3%. I'm not so sure about that. In fact, I'm convinced that it wouldn't make any difference at all. That if the standard Libertarian presidential candidate got into the debates, he'd still get, or she would still get, 1%, 2%. He'd fall within that range of 1 to 3%. In fact, I think the only way to match the 3%, I think that's the upper part of the range for a standard Libertarian Party presidential candidate, is to just recruit another Republican, maybe 2 Republicans. Bring them into the Libertarian Party, call them Libertarians, adopt all of their Republican reform positions as libertarianism, turn the Libertarian Party into a big tent encompassing reform positions of the welfare warfare state, and then present these as libertarianism. I think that's the maximum, though, 3%. I think if you run anybody less than a governor or maybe a U.S. senator, I think you're consigning yourself to 2%. Without anybody that's held public office or not, I think you're looking at 1%, 1.1%, maybe less. That's the standard Libertarian Party presidential campaign. Now, why do I say that? Why do I say that debates wouldn't make any difference? In fact, I think there might even be a benefit from not having been in those debates. Well, the reason is because the Libertarian Party message has really become one of mush. I mean, you would think after more than 50 years of existence, the Libertarian Party would already have its message out, that everybody would know what the Libertarian Party stands for, so that candidates wouldn't have to get their message out because everybody'd already know what the Libertarian Party stands for. But that is clearly not the case, because the Libertarian Party message, what the Libertarian Party stands for, at least for the last 25 or 30 years, as reflected by the standard Libertarian Party presidential campaign, is mush. It's a mush consisting of a conflation, a combination of conservatism, Republican principles, reform positions of the welfare warfare state with libertarianism. And all of this combination has produced this conservative libertarian mush. And the problem with conflating these conservative Republican reform-oriented positions with libertarian principles is that the libertarian principles inevitably get subsumed or submerged within the reform-oriented Republican positions. It's like mixing black paint with white paint. If you mix black paint and white paint, the result is not going to be white. You're not going to see any white there. It's going to be black, or at least a very, very dark gray. You're not going to see any white. And that's what's happened with the Libertarian Party message, this message of mush. And that's why if you see the mainstream press referring to the Libertarian Party as right-wing or a subset of the Libertarian Party, it's because of this conservative Republican reform-oriented mush. That mush would be reflected in the presidential debates if the standard Libertarian presidential candidate were permitted to be in those debates. Let's do a thought experiment, and let's imagine that the standard Libertarian Party presidential candidate gets into the debates, okay? And he's standing there, or she's standing there against the Republican and the Democrat. Let's say it's Trump and Biden this time. Now, the standard Libertarian presidential candidate is going to be asked some questions from the debate moderator. First question: Mr. or Ms. Libertarian, where do you stand as a libertarian on immigration? Answer: oh, that's an easy one. That's an easy one. Thank you for asking me that question. We libertarians stand in favor of securing the border, just like Trump and Biden here. We are all on the same page. Now, my grandparents were immigrants, and my grandparents were great people, but they followed the rules, and we've got to get people into this country that are like my grandparents, good people. And so we've got to just be more careful on who we select to come into the country. But clearly, we've got to secure our borders. There's no doubt about that. And so all three of us here on this debate stage are on the same page. It's just a variation of whether we should let in more immigrants and how many more immigrants and so forth. Moderator: so you don't favor just opening the borders to the free movements of people? Oh my gosh, no. We have a welfare state. We can't do that until we get rid of the welfare state. And the whole world might come here. Oh no, dude. Trump and Biden and I are all on the same page when it comes to immigration. Well, how about Social Security? Oh, that's an easy one too. We've got to save Social Security. And I've got a plan to save Social Security. It's a libertarian plan to save Social Security. And seniors put their money in. They're entitled to get their money back. There's a trust fund. Their money was put into a trust fund all their work lives, and it's been earning interest, and now they're just getting their own money back. But I'm with President Biden and former President Trump. We're all on the same page here. We want to save Social Security. Now, I've got a reform plan that entails opting out and phasing out and buying giant annuities by selling Yellowstone National Park. My reform plan will really save Social Security. And so I'm counting on seniors to come and vote for me. Moderator: well, how about Medicare? Oh, easy one. Oh, yeah, we've got to save Medicare. We can't pull the rug out from our seniors on health care. They're dependent on this. But we can reform it. We can use health savings accounts. That'll make the system better, where people can put their money aside during their work lives. But no, we've got to keep this program. There's just no doubt about it. And so I stand with President Biden and former President Trump, because they want to save Social Security too, and they want to save Medicare too. We're all on the same page on this one. Well, how about the health care mandates? Oh, thank you for asking me that question. We libertarians are against mandates. We're against masks. We're against vaccines. Those people that use those masks and their vaccines, they're just nuts. They're nuts. That we stand against all these things, and I want to make that clear. We just got to get better people in public office. Moderator: well, do you think we ought to abolish the Centers for Disease Control or get the state out of healthcare? Oh, no. We need the state involved in healthcare. The state protects us. But we got to get better people there. That's the thing about these mandates. They didn't have good people, knowledgeable people, free market-oriented people in charge of healthcare. But if we get conservative-oriented libertarians or conservatives, free market conservatives, then we put them in charge of the state's healthcare system and the federal government's healthcare system. Now we're talking about getting rid of all the mandates and getting rid of the masks and the vaccines and so forth. Well, what about the war on drugs? Oh, gosh, easy one again. Legalize marijuana. Yeah, absolutely. And people have a right to ingest marijuana. And it's not very harmful. Studies have shown that it's no more harmful than alcohol, maybe much less harmful. And so why not just legalize marijuana? Well, so what about the other drugs, opioids and fentanyl? Oh, no. I stand with both Biden and Trump on this one. We're all on the same page. You can't legalize those hard drugs. You got to protect people from these. They're very addictive. They're very harmful. So we've got to continue waging the war on drugs against the hard drugs, but legalize marijuana. How about education? Oh, easy one. I'm with President Reagan. He wanted to abolish the Department of Education, and so do I. And so we got to just get federal government out of healthcare. Now, the state level is a totally different thing. As a libertarian, I favor public schooling. And in fact, I'm a big proponent of vouchers, as President Trump is. We're on the same page on this one. That we know that school vouchers will they'll make the public school system better. They'll improve it through choice and competition. Moderator. But Mr. or Ms. Libertarian, as I understand it, your party's guided by the Libertarian non-aggression principle, which means that you're not supposed to support the initiation of force. In fact, from what I understand, every member of the Libertarian Party is required to sign a pledge that he or she won't support the initiation of force. Don't school vouchers involve the initiation of force because of taxation used to fund them? Oh, yes, there's no question about that. There's no question that school vouchers violate the Libertarian non-aggression principle. They do involve the initiation of force. Taxation is force. It's used to take money from one group of people in order to fund the educational decisions of another group of people. But look, the end justifies the means sometimes. Sometimes you've got to do these things, and we've got to improve our public school system. We've got libertarians running for school board now, and I'm all in favor of that. We've got to make this socialist program work. And it's a socialist program. We all know that. The government's involved with central planning of education, but we can make it work, and we're committed to make it work. Moderator. Well, as I understand it, the Libertarian Party calls itself the Party of Principle. Is that right? Yes, absolutely. We're the Party of Principle TM. And the TM is the trademark. We've got this thing trademarked. Well, how do you reconcile that with your support of a program that violates the Libertarian non-aggression principle? In fact, also on things like Social Security and Medicare, don't they also involve the violation of this core principle of your philosophy? Oh, absolutely. But look, nobody's perfect, and we're the Party of Principle TM. I would say 70% of the time, maybe 75% of the time. That's a pretty good track record to be the Party of Principle. And so that's what we are, the Party of Principle TM. Now, okay, debate moderator. What about foreign policy? Oh, again, another easy one. We gotta stop helping out Ukraine. I mean, we have no business in Ukraine, and I was also opposed to the interventions in Afghanistan and Iraq as a libertarian. Well, does this mean that you oppose all government interventions? Oh, no. I favor selective foreign interventionism. I think that when interventionism is in the national interest, then we've got to intervene. There's no question about that. Moderator. Well, who decides that? Because as I understand it, they thought that invading Afghanistan and Iraq was in our national interest. Oh, yeah, well, this just goes to show why you need a libertarian running this operation. We always know what's best for national security. Democrats and Republicans don't really have a good concept of what's in our national security. And so I will be working with the Pentagon and the CIA to make sure that interventions are only in our national interests. So you favor the CIA and the national security state? Oh, absolutely. As a libertarian, we need a strong national defense. I'm with the Republicans on this. We're on the exact same page. Strong national defense. And we need a national security state consistent of the Pentagon, the CIA, and the NSA. They protect us. They keep us safe. Okay, Mr. or Ms. Libertarian, would you take a couple minutes in your closing statement to tell us how you feel about capitalism and socialism? Oh, easy one. I'm a capitalist. I'm all in favor of capitalism. Ludwig von Mises, who is a hero to libertarians, he was an economist, and he wrote many books on capitalism, and I favor those books, and I favor what he said. But let me make it clear. I'm also with President Biden here when it comes to socialism. That's why I favor Social Security. They don't call it Social Security for nothing. And why I favor Medicare. Medicare is a socialist program. They have it in Cuba. And I'm a firm believer in that. And I believe in public schooling, which is a socialist program. I believe in the Federal Reserve. We need to reform the Federal Reserve. There's no question about it. But it's a central planning agency. And we all know central planning is socialism. So I favor both socialism and free markets, capitalism. So I should be able to draw from voters, both from the left, from the Democratic Party, with my commitment to socialism, and from the Republican Party with my commitment to capitalism. And let me just say in my closing statement here that I'm very thankful for y'all letting me in this debate, because I got my message out, and I was able to get my message out to the voters of this country. And I'm just very, very excited about that, and thank you so much. So there you have it. I mean, there's your standard Libertarian Party presidential campaign in the presidential debates. Well, as you can see, it's not really much of a debate, though, when that happens. A debate is when there's conflicts of visions and conflicts of positions, not when you're on the same page as the other people on the stage. Now, as I have said time and time again, I said it 3 years ago when I was seeking the LP presidential nomination, and I'm saying it here too. If you want to break out of this 1 to 3% category here that the standard presidential campaign is doomed to get. Now, some people are excited about it. 1.1%, there were people terribly excited about it. I don't get too excited about it. I mean, it's like, 98.9% of the voters are voting against you. That's not something really exciting for me. And I've said that if you want to break out of that and you want to get like into the 7 to 10% range, maybe higher, which I think would be a very respectable outcome, you need to do something different. You need to do something bold. And by bold and different, I mean running a campaign that is not the standard Libertarian Party presidential campaign. In other words, run a campaign that's based strictly on libertarian principles. Yes, I know there are people in the party that say, Jacob, our principles are an albatross. They're embarrassing. They're going to cost us votes with Republicans. They're going to cost us votes with Democrats. We need to water them down. We have to adopt the reform positions, especially of the Republicans, if we're going to get anywhere, like school vouchers and Medicare and health savings accounts and so forth. I'm not among them. I believe, and I have believed for more than 30 years, that our principles are our greatest asset. We just need to be targeting different people, different groups of people other than Democrats and Republicans. In fact, we need to be holding Democrats and Republicans to account for what they have done to destroy our country and to destroy our liberty and our financial well-being and our economic well-being. And that means that when you get into a debate, you're not on the same page of them at all. In other words, you're going after them in that debate. You're targeting them, showing why their policies and their positions are not your positions, by how their positions are destroying our country, destroying our liberty, destroying our well-being. Let me give you some examples. Mr. Hornberger, where do you stand on immigration? Abolish Border Patrol, abolish the Immigration Service, open the borders to the free movements of goods, services, and people. This immigration control system that these two people and their parties that are here on stage have forced it upon this country is a socialist system. It's based on the socialist principle of central planning. And we all know what central planning brings. It brings death. All my life, I've seen death associated with this immigration control system. People dying of thirst, crossing a lonely desert in the Southwest, or dying of drowning in the Rio Grande, or in the backs of tractor trailers, or because of a bullet fired at them by a Border Patrol agent, or just recently, several people dying in a detention center in Mexico. This is all because of their system, this system that they've forced it upon our land. There is only one solution to this perpetual crisis. This crisis has gone on all my life. They're on the border, and it's rooted in their socialist system. That solution is freedom and free markets, economic liberty. Open borders, the free movements of goods, services, and people across borders. This is our heritage as Americans. We had open immigration for more than 100 years, and you didn't see this massive death toll. You didn't see this police state. They have brought a police state to the border. Warrantless searches of ranches and farms, roving Border Patrol checkpoints on the highways, fixed government checkpoints on the highways. It's a totalitarian nightmare down there. We need to restore our faith in freedom, free markets, and it is the only system, open borders is the only system that is consistent with free markets, which is our heritage, and it's the only system that's consistent with religious and moral principles. Mr. Hornberger, where do you stand on Social Security? Totally opposed to their system over here, Biden's and Trump's or DeSantis or Haley, whatever, of saving Social Security. This is one of the worst mistakes this country ever made, was adopting socialism. And they don't call it Social Security for nothing. It is the crown jewel of American socialism. Socialism has proven to be the bane of mankind. Just ask people in Venezuela, North Korea, Cuba. Look what it's done to seniors. It's made them think that they're hopelessly dependent on this political narcotic. Nonsense. You could repeal this program today and everybody would be fine. The wealthy don't even need it. People might have to go back to work. There's nothing wrong with that. People would have to adjust. For the ones who are truly needy, you got family values, children, grandchildren who will no longer be paying, FICA taxes and hopefully income taxes too, because we could dismantle the whole welfare state and the warfare state. You've got church groups, you've got ameliorationary groups. You would have the Foundation for Former Social Security Recipients that wealthy people would love to donate. We just need to recapture our faith of freedom in this country and abandon and reject the faith in the coercive apparatus of the IRS, which is not care and compassion at all, and some faceless bureaucrat in the Social Security Administration. What about Medicare, Mr. Hornberger? Medicare destroyed and Medicaid destroyed what was the finest healthcare system in the world. That's what we had. Prices were low and stable. People didn't even need major medical insurance. And then this socialist program was adopted, and that's the cause of the soaring healthcare prices and all the dysfunctionality in the healthcare system. If you want to restore health to the healthcare system, you've got to get rid of this cancer, and that means repealing it. Get rid of it. And that's why I stand in opposition to these two people on the stage here, Trump, DeSantis, Biden, whoever it is, who favor this socialist program. What about mandates? People should be free to decide for themselves what to do in healthcare, whether they want to use masks or you want to use vaccines. People make decisions on their own. They do their own research, and we shouldn't condemn people that are choosing ways that are different from us. Libertarians just say, leave people free to make these decisions on their own. If they want to use masks, if they want to take vaccines, that's their decision. Get government out of this process. Government has no more expertise handling healthcare than it does religion, or education for that matter. We need to separate healthcare in the state. Just get government totally out of healthcare and let freedom in the free market operate in this area. What about the war on drugs? Legalize all drugs. This thing has been a fiasco. And these two parties are represented by these two candidates, Biden, Trump, DeSantis, whatever. They're the ones that have brought all this violence and death and destruction to our society with this horrific racist government program. It's probably the most racist government program since segregation, in terms of mass incarceration, how it lands disproportionately on black people, the inordinate jail sentences that are given out to blacks as compared to white people. It's absolutely a fiasco, a disaster, is bad, if not worse, than prohibition of alcohol. We need to get rid of it. All it does is provide money and power to the drug cartels, who would be out of business immediately, and to the government officials who enforce this thing. Drug addiction belongs in rehab centers, not in America's criminal justice system. Legalize all drugs. What about education? We need to just get government out of education entirely, just like with healthcare, just like religion. Our ancestors understood that with respect to religion. Government doesn't have the expertise of education. These are little centers of indoctrination, trying to turn children into good little citizens that are never going to question the state. We need to get rid of this thing. We need to rely on the free market. The free market produces the best of everything. Every parent owes it to his child to give him the best education possible. And that's what the free market would bring, especially in the inner cities where these public schools are cesspools of violence and drugs and so forth. We need to just separate school and state the way our ancestors separated church and state. Well, Mr. Hornberger, how do you feel about school vouchers? Totally opposed to them. This is a Republican reform measure. Republicans use school vouchers, which involve the initiation of force against people, and they think that they're going to reform the public school system. They're going to improve it through what they call choice and competition. Ridiculous. Ridiculous. You cannot improve a system that is inherently defective. We just need to get rid of the state, throw the state out of school. That's what we need to do. And leave people free to decide their own educational vehicle, and leave entrepreneurs free to flood the market with educational vehicles, educational devices, educational schools, whatever, that people are willing to pay for and adopt. What about foreign policy? Absolute disaster. Absolute. This is what the conversion of the national security state was in large part responsible for. Our country started as a limited government republic with just a basic relatively small military force. That's what our ancestors wanted for America. And instead, in the 1940s, late 40s, it got converted over to a national security state where you've got the Pentagon, the CIA, the NSA, the vast military industrial complex, together with this foreign policy of interventionism, which has proven to be a disaster. They sacrificed 58,000 plus of my generation in the Vietnam War for nothing. Afghanistan, Iraq, now Ukraine, they're getting us ever closer to nuclear war. All of this anti-Russia hostility and anti-China hostility. This is no way to live. And this is what they did. What we need to do is restore our heritage, our founding heritage of non-interventionism. Anywhere, not selective interventionism as these two candidates say they want. We need non-interventionism. That's our heritage, and we need to restore a limited government republic by dismantling the Pentagon, dismantling the CIA, which is the most evil agency in American history, and the NSA with all of its illegal mass surveillance schemes. So, Mr. Hornberger, would you give us a 2-minute wrap-up with your perspectives on capitalism and socialism? Yeah, capitalism gets a bad rap from the socialists, of course, but it is really the greatest thing that was ever discovered, stretching all the way back to Adam Smith's great treatise, An Inquiry into the Nature and Causes of the Wealth of Nations. It really is the secret to ending poverty. It brought an end to poverty. When you compare living standards today with where they were in the Middle Ages before the Industrial Revolution and the Capitalist Revolution and so forth, there's no comparison at all. People today that are poor still live relatively high standards of living compared to where people were back in the Middle Ages. Unfortunately, the socialists came along all over the world, including here in the United States, adopted income taxation, massive confiscation of capital through income and savings, thereby diminishing the ability of people to produce more, which is what raises standards of living. They've got trade wars, which interfere with people's increase in the standard of living. And look, in every trade, both sides benefit. That's why you give up something you value less for something you value more. So you can increase your standard of living just through trade. And yet these Democrats and Republicans, all they want to do is have tariffs, trade restrictions, subsidies, trade wars, everything to reduce the standard of living, not only of foreigners, but also here in the United States. Socialism is the worst economic philosophy. It is the bane of mankind. It has brought poverty, misery, death, destruction. This country needs to rid ourselves of this socialism, including Social Security and Medicare and public schooling, central banking, and so forth. All the socialist devices and regulatory devices that bring people down and to bring conflict to people. So, Stan, put me down in favor of free markets and economic liberty, unlike my opponents here who will embrace socialism and socialist programs every day of the week. Okay, so there's your difference. So you get the standard libertarian into the debates, and you're going to hear, I'm on the same page, I'm on the same page, I'm on the same page. You go in there with a bold campaign, a campaign based strictly on libertarian principles, and now you've got a real debate. Now you're going after the people that are bringing our country down. I'm Jacob Hornberger, Libertarian candidate for president in 2024. My campaign website is jacobforliberty.com.